It's not basic training yet.
Hey guys, did you know some drivers are ditching their car insurance and they're doing this instead? Now the reason why you may be overpaying for car insurance is because a big chunk of your monthly payment isn't even for insurance. It's to pay bill collectors and administrative people. Crazy, right? But my friend showed me this cool little website that changes this around completely. It gives you the ability to pay for just your policy alone. So this website can find liability for as low as $29 a month and full coverage insurance for only $38 a month. I put a link to the website down below. So hey, whatever button you see on this video, just go ahead and click that and it's going to take you directly to the website.
What does that allow the Army to achieve? What happens if it doesn't achieve that over time?
Well, if we don't meet our sessions and recruiting goals, then there starts to become a gap where we don't have those young soldiers that turn into leaders that become senior over time. It takes 20 years to make a sergeant major or a colonel, and so you've got to start. If you lose that. If you have a gap there, then you have a gap in those leaders that get developed over the time.
You have developing leaders, but no one to lead, or fewer people to lead.
Exactly.
To carry out the basic core missions of the Army. James?
On the back end of that is I remember years ago I covered a unit where they were graduating 100 service members into their force, but fiscally they were losing 40 to 50. So if they were only graduating they were graduating 10 into their force, but they were fiscally losing 40 to 50. So not only is recruitment important, but retention, because as more people are coming in, there's a majority of people who are also getting out.
And why are they getting out?
End of career, perhaps medical discharges. They're moving on to bigger and better things. Things like that. There's a multitude.
Retention is also part of this conversation.
It is. And we've actually done well over the last 2-3 years on retention. Soldiers want to continue to serve, and so we're looking pretty good there. And now, with meeting our sessions goals, the Army's in great shape.
So we're going to continue to turn back to the parade, look and listen.
Special thanks to our sponsor, UFC. On September 11, 2001, terrorists destroyed the World Trade Center in New York City and struck the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. using commercial airliners. In response, the U.S. launched the global war on terrorism. The U.S. would stop potential threats around the world and take the fight to terrorist groups and the nations that back them. The Army immediately deployed forces to Afghanistan to destroy Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist organization and depose his sponsors, the ruling Taliban. The 2003 President Bush expanded the war to Iraq. Soldiers and other armed services overthrew Iraq's dictator Saddam Hussein. The fight to stabilize Iraq and prevent terrorist groups from overthrowing its new government continues to this day. The campaign in Afghanistan lasted until 2021, when U.S. forces withdrew and the Taliban returned to power. Over the course of the two-decade conflict, over 2 million servicemen and women, less than 1% of the American population, deployed in support of the global war on terrorism. Most of those who served were members of the United States Army.
Sure, I want to go back to the parade route and Nicole Killian. Nicole.
You know, right now we are in the global war on terror, and I just want to show you that one of the last strikers to pass by us. You know, one thing that is interesting in our last hit, of course, you saw the Bradley and the Abrams tanks. These striker vehicles are much quieter. I mean, I just paused. Obviously, you can hear the music there, but, you know, you cannot hear them rumble by as those other tanks did. You know, we have a member of our security here who is an Army veteran, so he pointed that out to us, but it is quite a noticeable difference, but certainly important to reflect on this particular time in history. Of course, a global war on terror launched by former President George W. Bush in the wake of the attack on the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and of course, in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I was actually there on 9/11 at Ground Zero hours after that particular attack happened. But certainly we saw in the wake of that a lot. You know, you talked about recruitment a little earlier, but certainly a lot of people joining the military in the wake of those attacks. And of course, subsequently after that, President Bush expanded the war into Iraq. So that is kind of the moment that we are marking here in terms of the demonstration that is passing along Constitution Avenue. Again, a continued show of force here. But to tell you a little bit more about those strikers, as I mentioned, you know, they come in 10 variants, including an infantry carrier vehicle, a mortar carrier vehicle, a commander's vehicle, and a medical evacuation vehicle. And depending on the variant, they can carry up to 11 occupants and reach speeds up to 60 miles an hour. And so they are also used, obviously, by the National Guard as well as the Army here. But again, just very noticeable how quiet they are in terms of rolling by, even as mighty as they are here along the street. So certainly we continue to talk to people here in the crowd who are impressed by this display and show of force. As I mentioned earlier, you know, a lot of people just coming out here out of curiosity to see the sights for themselves. You know, many people haven't seen military vehicles like this up close, so it is pretty remarkable. And I think Ellie raised a good point too in terms of some of these military vehicles being used now in other parts of the world, and it's certainly important for people to understand that as well from a foreign policy perspective. So anyway, the show continues on as we continue to mark the different phases and evolution of the Army over its 250 years, Major.
And Nicole, please stay with us. I just want to let the audience know the strikers that passed Nicole's position on the parade route will soon come before the viewing stand. We'll see him on the government pool cameras. I want to let everyone know the various video feeds you see are provided by the government. We don't have independent control over them, but those striker vehicles will pass before that Army reviewing stand where President Trump and other dignitaries are. Nicole, there were estimates before this parade occurred of maybe 200, maybe 300,000. As the feeds come to us showing the various crowds, there's certainly a good number of people there. Do you have any sense, based on what you can see, about how large or maybe not so large this crowd is?
Yeah, it's a little hard to tell. Of course, you know, the section behind us here, if you look over my shoulder, is pretty packed with people, but certainly in terms of the mall as a whole, there is certainly plenty of free space where people can walk and roam around. So hard to give you an exact or precise crowd estimate at this time. I know in advance of this event, certainly the hope was that the totals would reach upwards of 200,000. So unclear if we will meet that mark or not. Certainly it's important to keep in mind the weather component as well. We started this parade about 30 minutes earlier because there were storms predicted for this area, even the potential of lightning. And we certainly saw some pretty heavy storms rumble through the Washington area last night. So that is part of why they wanted to get the show started earlier. We saw the Golden Knights parachute a little ahead of schedule to get out of the elements. So that potentially could have prevented the totals in terms of crowd here from staying on the lower side. But again, we'll kind of have to see once the event concludes.
Nicole Killian, thank you so very much. Sergeant Major Chris Melinex, let the audience know when we talk about the potential of lightning, why that would have been a safety factor for any of the aerial displays that were contemplated or are playing out.
Yeah, so we made the weather call It looked like that we weren't going to be able to get the aircraft in, but it worked out. The Golden Knights came in a little earlier because they probably saw a window of opportunity to get them out. And then the only thing stopping us right now, it's not the rain, it's just the lightning. The same reasons why anybody would not be out in a lightning storm is you don't want soldiers out there either.
And I want to ask you a little bit of biography about yourself. How long have you been in, and how would you say your career has aligned or coincided with that post 9/11 generation of those who joined the Army and other military services?
Yeah, thanks, Major. I've been in, actually, June 24th, I'll hit 27 years.
Okay.
So 27 of those 250 years I've been right here with the United States Army, which has been a hell of a journey. I've had a blast, and it's gone by fast. And what I realize every day is I got, a fewer years in front of me, than I have left. So, the Rangers right there, if you're seeing them on the screen there, that's where I spent 16 years of my career. That's where I became a man. That's where I became a husband. That's where I became a father. All the good and bad things that happen when you're a young adult, that's where it happened. And that organization right there shaped me into the leader and soldier I am today.
And the fighting force that developed after 9/11 and its missions, and that, as we were talking about earlier, adaptations, urban warfare, counterintelligence, all those things were new, or not brand new, but newer.
Yeah, when we started off, and our first few deployments to Afghanistan, my first one was December of 2001, my very first deployment, and by the time, by 2010, the Ranger Regiment was a completely different organization. The experience and the things that they learned, the hard lessons we learned when we lost Rangers on the battlefield and soldiers on the battlefield, we realized that we got to figure this out very quickly, because this enemy is relentless, and they're not going to quit. They'll do whatever it takes, and we figured it out. And so the learning curve was significant through those 20 years in GWOT.
We're going to listen to and watch as the parade continues.
The United States does not face the challenging international environment alone. Our network of allies and partners is an advantage that our adversaries can never hope to match. Over 80 nations have fought alongside the United States or assisted it during the global war on terrorism. The 10th Mountain Division's climb to glory began with its establishment as the 10th Light Division in July 1943, the only one of its size in the U.S. military to receive specialized training for fighting in mountainous conditions. After periods spent inactive as a training division and as a standard infantry division, the unit returned to its roots in 1985 when it regained its Mountain Division designation. In the 1990s, the division participated in numerous humanitarian and peacekeeping operations. During the war on terrorism, the 10th Mountain Division proved their mettle as light fighters through repeated deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. Now, since 2002, the 10th Mountain Division, based out of Fort Drum, New York, has been the most deployed regular Army unit. Its combat brigades have seen over 20 deployments to both Iraq and Afghanistan in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. To show America's military might, they have one purpose.
As I mentioned earlier, this parade, this recognition, celebration of the 250th birthday of the United States Army occurs in a broader national context and a broader national conversation. Not all Americans are celebrating this particular moment, or if they are, they're putting it in their own terminology, which is, in this case, in certain protests around the country, no king or no kings, meaning that they see something about President Trump's administration of federal power that they regard as potentially kingly. Adam Yamaguchi joins us from Los Angeles with an update. He was with us earlier. Adam, what can you tell us?
Yeah, in just the last few minutes, we've seen a heavy reinforcement of LAPD sheriff's deputies. It's not entirely clear what transpired, but we've seen a number of those units push in, and we see officers here in full riot gear. They pushed the crowd essentially away from the protest site here in front of the federal building in just the last few minutes. It seemed as though they're trying to box the crowd back further in. They had approached the freeway, which has been a concern amidst these protests. But again, not really clear what is happening. Everyone seems to be stopped just about a half block down. I think we can try to get closer.
Please do, Adam,
But
if you can get closer.
We're seeing LAPD officers. Yeah, we're seeing LAPD officers on horses. We just want to make sure that we're okay walking through here. You have SWAT officers as well. Again, it's not clear what that escalation may have been, but you can certainly see and feel it here. So everyone seems to be coalesced around this corner here. We're still looking at probably a few thousand protesters about a couple hours after the protest officially ended. But you can see officers here with their pepper ball guns. You've got SWAT officers over here at LAPD preparing with gas masks. So there may. All right, we're gonna hang back here.
Understood, Adam. Adam, and just to underscore the points you made, these are Los Angeles Police Department and Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies, not the National Guard, not the Marines.
That is correct, Major. What we're seeing behind me are sheriff's deputies, LAPD. There was a contingent of California Highway Patrol. If you look back at the federal building, the phalanx of National Guard, as well as a few Marines that were mixed in, are still guarding. They have not moved from the federal building that they have surrounded here. But yes, everyone here is state and local authorities, and you see more police coming in with batons.
Adam, we will check back with you if events require. I thank you for that on-the-scene reporting. Things do look like they're developing in a certain way, and perhaps it is just to encourage people to disperse. Los Angeles City has had disbursement orders, a curfew in the evening. That might be a disbursement. It might be something more aggressive. Adam, we will get back to you if and when events suggest we should. Coming back here to Washington, D.C. in the nation's capital, and the parade in honor of the 250th birthday of the United States Army. Let's look and listen.
Special thanks to sponsor Palantir.
The 1st Armored Division is, if you did not know, and I certainly didn't, America's Tank Division, nicknamed Old Ironsides. Command Sergeant Major James Light is part of the unit from Fort Bills, Texas, and joins me now from the parade route. It's great to have you with us. Your impressions on what's gone on so far?
Hey, thank you for having me, first of all. And let me tell you, this is just quite the spectacle here. There's thousands and thousands of people out here to celebrate, their Army's 250th birthday. And I couldn't be prouder of what I've seen out of my soldiers today.
And just for everyone's edification, Fort Bliss is the correct designation. I apologize for that mistake. As you see this play out, and as the Army celebrates not only its present, its past, and its future, what do you want the casual American, maybe just watching this on social media or joining us here on CBS News 24/7 to take away from today?
Yeah, what I'll tell you is, across our Army, our soldiers are excited about being here and being a part of this event. The American people here have been extra supportive of this event, cheering for every formation that goes by. And I would like to say thank you for the crowds here cheering loudest when the M1 Abrams passed by. And so they're absolutely a fan of armor, and that's one thing that 1st Armored Division has a lot of.
Tell my audience what the Armor Division and armor in general means for a functional, successful Army.
Yeah, so what 1st Armored Division and our sister divisions bring to the fight is mobile protected firepower for our soldiers. And we have a unique capability of being able to penetrate enemy prepared defenses. And so we're a part of the 3rd Armored Corps, and we consider ourselves America's finishing force. So other units might start the war, but 3rd Armored Corps and 1st Armored Division and our soldiers finish it.
And Command Sergeant Major James Light, I asked this of our two guests here on the desk. I'd like your interpretation. Do soldiers like to parade?
Soldiers don't necessarily enjoy preparing for the parade, but once they're in it, they take great pride in being able to show their training and their discipline to their country. Right? This is America's Army, America's sons and daughters out here on display for the world to see, and our adversaries are watching too. And I think what they see is going to continue to help us deter aggression around the world.
And if it's not obvious, we should just underscore it in case anyone missed it. This is not your average parade.
That is right. Absolutely not. Almost 7,000 soldiers, M1 tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, artillery, aviation, like the whole gamut is out here, and it's really fantastic to see.
I appreciate your time. Command Sergeant Major James Light, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for featuring our Army. This will defend.
Sergeant Major Chris Mullinex here at the table. You were nodding your head.
Building your online business? Go to Wix.com and set up your store on a single integrated platform. Add products, showcase them dynamically, and seamlessly track your inventory. Accept multiple secure payments, and design your storefront down to the very last detail. Get all the tools you need. Drive more sales with customizable gift cards and flexible product subscriptions. Retain customers with a point-based loyalty program, email automations, and reach millions with sales channel integrations. Complete your setup with a personalized analytics dashboard.